Iranians have been taking to the streets to protest. But this time it's not about lack of political freedoms. It's not about human rights. It's something more fundamental. It's about fear for the future of the country. More and more Iranians say they're running out of hope. So what triggered this current wave of despair? What inspires them for a better future?
The first time I heard of طاهره, I must have been very, very young. When I read about her life and I read her poetry, she seems like such an intense, passionate person. And I can't imagine that she wasn't expressing that all of the time, which must have just been such a revolutionary act in and of itself, to be such an intense, passionate woman during that time.
Women have an incredible voice in this world. We just need the space to use it. We need the ears to hear it because we have so much to offer. And Iranian women in particular, from what I've read, from my experiences of, Iranian history and then just women that I know now, there's so much that the world needs that they have to offer, and that space needs to be made.
My parents say that when I was 8 years old, I declared that I was going to be a painter, and they were both horrified because they're Persian parents. My mom is a nurse. She wanted me to go into medicine. My dad is an engineer. He wanted me to go into law. And then here I was, age 8, and I said, I'm going to be a painter.
One of the things that I realized was that a woman's value is very much in who she marries. It's not necessarily about what she does, but more so who she marries. So if I were to marry a doctor, I would be Mrs. Doctor, blah, blah, blah. And to them, that was equally as valuable as me becoming my own doctor. And so it was something I was like, I'm not doing that.
Women, I'm sure, by and large, were supposed to be quiet and out of the way. And I think about that a lot when I think about that because I think a lot of women still feel that way. I've definitely felt that way in 2018 in America, that people would generally prefer if I was a little bit turned down and not so passionate about the things that I'm passionate about. And that's why when I think about that with طاهره, I feel sort of a resolve to carry forth that spirit, because thank God that she did that for us so that I can be where I am today. Singing was all I wanted to do since I was very little. And as long as I can remember, it's the path that I wanted to pursue in whatever way possible. I grew up in a small Baha'i community, and the arts and music was a big part of the community and what we did. Everybody sang in a choir. So that was really my first introduction was spiritual music, and we would sing anything from a new piece of Baha'i-inspired music to an old African-American spiritual gospel music, anything like that. So much of American music was created by the Africans that were brought over as slaves, and I just can't even imagine an existence without their voices and their music, and the fact that they were able to create that with so much just awful oppression. It's what sits in my heart most heavily, and that really anchors me to keep making music, because I'm so inspired.
carry me home.
When I was a kid, I felt very different all the time. My name is Pariса, and a lot of people ask me about where my name is from. My parents are Baha'is, and in Jamaica, where I was born, there was a Baha'i family from Iran who had a daughter named Parisa. She was 12 years old. My parents loved her dearly, and so when they had me, they named me after her. My mother is a white American. My father is mostly of African descent from Jamaica, and I grew up between Jamaica and Florida. And growing up in Baha'i communities gave me an opportunity to have exposure to some diversity, to Baha'i teachings about race and culture that gave me some comfort about the way that I was. Reminded me that I was more than the color of my skin or the way that I spoke or what my name was or anything else. And now as an adult, I'm extremely grateful for that, because as my understanding of that has evolved, I understand that I'm more than anything else. I'm a soul, and everything that I approach in my life needs to come from that.
So I feel very much like a rebel. I'm from Nashville, Tennessee. I was born there, but my parents are both from Iran. And they left after the Iranian Revolution because they're members of the Baha'i faith. My grandfather was unfortunately executed. He was imprisoned with my uncle, who was actually able to escape. But my grandfather remained, and he chose to remain. He had the option of leaving the country, and my father urged him to leave, and he said, actually, if I go, then who is going to stay behind to help the Baha'is who don't have the means to leave? So he knew very, very much so that he was going to be executed, and he chose that. As a child, it was always something that I felt really proud of. To know that I came from somebody who had such courage and bravery. And actually, my grandmother had a giant, beautiful portrait of my grandfather painted by a famous Persian painter, Samimi. And that painting always hung in her home. So it was almost like, you know, his physical presence wasn't there, but ironically, it was a painting that always made me feel like he was present. I think my work can be connected to my grandfather in the sense that he is the reason that my entire family left and came here. And because of that, I was raised as an immigrant in America, in the South, which is very predominantly Christian and very predominantly white. So from a very young age, I stuck out like a sore thumb. When you live in a society that is quite racist and you are not of that race, like it was very difficult. So having art was an outlet for me. So I was always turning to my paintings as a way to release the emotional turmoil of being this outsider in my own home.
I was born here, born and raised in Los Angeles. Ever since I was young, I was always really drawn towards justice. Growing up in the household that I did and with immigrant parents, it was very like, you know, cookie cutter. So it was like, well, justice equals law. You know, how else are you going to fight for justice? So I did all kinds of things. I did all kinds of jobs and internships, and at the end of it, I was left completely disenchanted with the legal system, and I found that it was something really difficult for me, that I actually did not want to wake up every day for the rest of my life and practice law. I just started making jewelry, and then the jewelry took off. Every time I decide to show up, I just sort of surrender, you know, my will to something bigger than me. So I always, every morning I ask, you know, show me what show me how I can serve you today. Because I think at the end of the day, that's what it's about. It's really about service. And I think that there's nothing that brings me more fulfillment or joy other than service.
I was an actor for many years before I felt comfortable calling myself an actor. I was an artist for many years. I mean, I feel like I've been an artist my whole life, and I wasn't comfortable with it because the word itself meant things to me that aren't true. It meant fame, it meant power and being special in ways that just made you so much cooler than other people, and I don't believe that anymore. And so a big calling for me is helping other people see the artist in themselves, see the creator themselves. And I don't care if you can be a plumber, you can be a doctor, you can be an astronaut, and still approach your job with a sense of artistry and creativity and gain so much spiritual sustenance from that, and I really want everyone to have it.
My intuition was always so strong that I wanted to be a painter that all of the other voices saying, you'll never make it, you'll never make money, you'll be homeless, that sense of intuition was so strong in me, I was able to sort of silence those other voices. But also reading in the Baha'i writings, art is equal to worship. It says that when a painter picks up his or her paintbrush, it's as if you were going to the temple to pray. And I always felt that way, that there was a sense of devotion and reverence and channeling something that was bigger than myself that I always felt during the process of creation. And that for me was the most incredible feeling I'd ever experienced.
For me, the most important thing being a woman in music is that I am constantly being vigilant about representing my authentic experience and my viewpoint, because, even though women have, in America, they've been a part of music for a very, very long time, our own perspective hasn't always been encouraged or seen. And I think in this day and age, that people do want to hear our experiences, and they do want to hear our message, and they do want to know what changes we would like to see. And I think that's, for me, what I want to remain vigilant is that I'm expressing that.
I can change, I can change, I can still change, I can change.
We need trailblazers, people that break with things that no longer serve us and start doing things that, benefit us.
It's amazing to see women, sometimes I'm sure risking their lives to say, please, I want even this small aspect of autonomy. And we can look at it and see how it applies to where we need to stand up in our own lives here.
I think equality is inevitable, and I think that it's never going to be something that's going to be handed over to women. It's going to be something that we have to take.
I'm reminded of the Persian poetess طاهره, who was an important figure in Baha'i history as well, who removed her veil and spoke so beautifully about the emancipation of women and that would be coming in the future, and essentially giving her life for that.
گر به تو افتادم نظر، چهره به چهره، رو به رو، شرح دهم غم تو را، نکته به نکته، مو به مو. ساقی باقی از وفا، باده بده سبو سبو. مطرب خوشنوای را، تازه به تازه، گو به گو.
I always say that no big movements in history have ever started from the top down. They've always started from the bottom up, always. And it could literally start with one person.
نه به باوری در آید که به چشم دیده باشد، نه اگر کلام و حرفی ز لبش شنیده باشد، نه در این زمان رحمی و به عشق جمله وهمی. چه خوش آن دمی که عهدی به وفا رسیده باشد، نه کسی همیشه باید که دری